On April 30th, 2021, Mojang uploaded their final episode of their ongoing series, How We Make Minecraft, in which they talked about them creating the Ender Dragon and how that would affect the game, but hidden within that episode, Mojang said something that genuinely shocked me. But first, I think we need a little context. The Mojang produced series, How We Make Minecraft, is a series that started on July 31st, 2020, and is quite obviously about how Mojang goes about creating Terraria. Okay, maybe Minecraft, but within all the educational portions of this series, the narrator, who really steals the show, also incorporates a lot of jokes into the series. And these jokes are extremely self-aware, almost to the point of making fun of Minecraft itself sometimes. Now, where am I going with this? Well, in episode 9, the final episode of How We Make Minecraft, they talk about a lot of things, like how Minecraft has a difficulty curve, they got a little dissonant at Fortnite, and they also blatantly tell you to uninstall Minecraft.
Close Minecraft and look for new, fresh experiences that entertain you in ways Minecraft never could. Say goodbye to Minecraft. I uninstall thee. Farewell forever.
But within all that, they also talked about how they wanted to use the Ender Dragon to test the players' skills that they learned throughout the game up to that point. Skills such as archery, movement, and of course combat. But right as the narrator finishes talking about the combat, he says this.
As for the fight itself, well, hopefully by now you've mastered our perfect combat system that no one has ever complained about. Let's move on. Quickly now.
Yeah, sure, maybe they weren't completely calling their combat terrible, and it was clearly a joke, but what this clip is telling us is that Mojang knows that a lot of people still dislike the 1.9 combat. But this isn't the only thing Mojang have said regarding the 1.9 combat. In fact, they've said and done things a lot more drastic than that. February 29th, 2016, Mojang releases the 1.9 combat update to the world, changing the combat forever. And it instantly becomes one of the most hated Minecraft updates of all time due to the complete rework of the combat system. Mojang knew they had to respond, so in June 2019, 3 years later, Jeb makes a post to the subreddit r/Minecraft with the title, A Custom Java Edition Snapshot to Test the New Combat Mechanics. The intro to the post says this. The combat mechanics in Java Edition have been a controversial topic ever since the 1.9 update. We want the mechanics to be the same across all editions, but simply porting the Java to Bedrock or vice versa is not taking us forward. We want to find a system that is flexible and works well across all input devices. So what does that mean, and why is Jeb making a Reddit post about combat? Well, this post was actually the announcement and release of an experimental combat snapshot. Now, this kind of blew my mind, so hold on and let me explain this to you. So in this post, Jeb highlights the main issues with both Bedrock and Java's combat systems. The main issues he listed being Java's combat is too slow for PvP, Bedrock's combat is too tedious on controller, Java's combat damage per second is too low to beat regenerating items, the weapons on Bedrock are too similar, Java's combat is too hard to understand for new players, and finally, Bedrock's armor is not balanced. Jeb then explains some ways that might fix some of the problems with the combat and then has a download link for a snapshot that isn't accessible through the normal Minecraft launcher and can only be found here on Reddit. So essentially, Mojang is providing us with a way to test possible new combat systems before they're even in any official snapshots yet. But like I said before, this post was made in June 2019, so there's not just one of these experimental combat snapshots, but there's actually been 8 of them, with the most recent one being released on August 21st, 2020, as of making this video. So what does all this mean then? Well, this means that the 1.9 Java combat and the Bedrock combat that we know today will be getting replaced completely, and that this new combat system will be the same on both Bedrock and Java Edition. Now, how do these snapshots actually change the combat? Well, these combat changes are pretty intense, so let me show you what they change. Okay, launching up the experimental snapshot, we get into the game, and the first thing you'll notice is that you can attack faster overall. And charging your weapon is no longer the only way to attack. Instead, you could spam click or charge your weapon to attack, and they both do the same amount of damage. But waiting for your weapon to charge has more benefits, like an increased attack range, and sweeping edge will only apply to charged attacks. And speaking of sweeping edge, it doesn't come pre-installed onto all weapons anymore. Instead, you have to have the sweeping edge enchantment on your weapon to use the sweeping edge attack. And again, speaking of enchantments, a brand new enchantment called cleaving is introduced in this snapshot. It's basically just sharpness for axes with the addition that it will also stun shields longer with it applied. Now moving off of weapons, these are some really cool random things the snapshot changes. Snowballs now stacked to 64, player momentum is added when throwing projectiles like eggs, eating is interrupted when you get hit by something, consuming what Mojang calls liquid foods like stew or honey can now be consumed faster, and bow and arrow accuracy is now decreased the longer you pull the bow. Those are not all the changes, but are some of the more important ones. Now in terms of combat, it really seems like Mojang wants to bring the best of the bedrock spam clicking and the Java charged attacks all into one combat system, which I think if they could pull it off would be really great for everyone. And I should mention that these changes are definitely not final and probably will change, but it seems to me like some of the core changes might be here to stay, although I don't know for sure. Now don't get me wrong, this video isn't me saying that I don't like the 1.9 combat, but it's me talking about how even Mojang isn't satisfied with the current state of 1.9 combat. But clearly they weren't happy with the old 1.8 combat either, because if they were, they would have never changed it. Almost like how I'm not happy that I'm being forced to make this video, although that is something that's probably not going to change.